Joining us is Ivan Velez. He is the author of Tales from the Closet, one of the first LGBT outreach publications for youth. And he's also the author and storyboarder of Dead High Yearbook, which, if you have not seen it, is an absolutely amazingly gruesome journey through high school. So,
don't forget myself a milestone like Static and Blood Syndicate, where I had 20 gay characters in there.
So, while anime and manga and comics have continued to gain in visibility and readership, there still seems to be a general dearth of LGBT characters and storylines. So, while they've been developing, why are we still seeing these missing stories, and where are some places that we can go to find them and encourage them to develop?
I've been doing outreach for gay audiences for comics for about 10 years now, starting back with Andy Bengals did a yearly Who's Queer in Comics thing at San Diego Comic-Con. And from then to now, it's only been about 10 years. It's been pretty dramatic. It's been, as far as improvement, because we're getting to the point now where there's enough diversity in the characters being introduced in kind of mainstream and superhero comics that you can have someone say, you know, there's really no really flamboyant gay characters in comics because they're all these kind of very safe, you know, they're trying not to offend anybody and they're trying to be very kind of, you know, quote-unquote normal looking to a straight audience. And so now in Teen Titans there's going to be supposedly a flamboyantly gay character introduced. And that to me is progress because you have a character where they're not so worried anymore about that character having to represent everybody. And I think that that's a good sign. I think we're in the right direction. I think that if you look to organizations like Prism Comics and Geeks Out and the Gay League of America and Fanboys of the Universe and all these different resources online, you can meet up with people and you can find out what's going on in terms of queer content in comics, and there's just a lot more than maybe the average comic reader might think.
Yeah, I tend to think the other way, that I think it's still very problematic. The gay characters in comics tend to be very generic and stereotypic. They don't really have relationships, unless they're like kind of making fun of relationships like Midnighter and that kind of stuff. I think independent comics are way ahead of that on the game. But again, you know, mainstream comics have the same issue with gender, especially gender. Same issue with orientation, with class, with race. And I think it's because most of the creators, like 99.9%, tend to be of a certain class and a certain race, and that's their point of view. So when they write other people, they tend to write from that point of view. So I think sometimes it just doesn't feel real.
I guess this is where I jump in as the gay Asian editor for Marvel Comics. I don't know. I agree with you in a sense that with independent comics, I feel like there's a greater diversity in the creators, and they're allowed to express that because they can kind of go out there, put together a book, and put it out there for distribution. And of course, with a company like Marvel Comics, I mean, there's all sorts of other considerations. But I grew up as pretty much strictly a Marvel kid, and I think that even though you might not see tons and tons of gay characters being super gay, there are those narratives there. I mean, you know, X-Men, for example, you could take that totally as, you know, a gay narrative if you want. And now more and more I feel like you see, you know, not just, you know, that narrative in X-Men books amongst the straight X-Men, but also there are gay X-Men characters. I also think that, I grew up kind of in the age of Will and Grace, and oddly enough, that's starting to trickle in. If you look at a lot of the teen books that Marvel's putting out, like Runaways or Young Avengers or Young X-Men, that's where you actually see a lot of the gay kids, you know, kind of cropping up in actual relationships, you know. I see Overkin back here, so a character from Young Avengers, so there you go.
Sorry, I'll speak in Japanese.
I'm just the interpreter, so.
女性の漫画も私がこれを17年前に書いた時はもう全然誰もレズビアンのことを書いてる人がいない、または男性向けのポルノしかなかったんですね。でそれと比べれば今は随分増えてきてると思いますけれど。
So 17 years ago when I started writing this, really there was nothing else that was available. Other than, like, nothing for women, and really the only thing that existed was porn for men. Really? So
それかもう SF ファンタジーとかそういう中でだからレズビアンは OK とかあとはすごい悲しい物語しかなかったリアルなものがなかった。
there weren't really any sort of very realistic or real type of scenarios. Like you'd find, for example, very convenient like lesbian relationships in like sci-fi, but nothing specifically for like very real, very realistic LGBT relationships. And now the fan base is a lot bigger, so.
だけどいまだになんかあんまりリアルなものはそんなには増えていないと思う。ただのその感情的なリレーションシップのみでどういうふうにリアルにこの場所にエグジストしてるかっていうようなそんな漫画はやっぱり少ないと思います。
And there's really just not that many, and that's something that I'm actually interested in trying to expand on, is getting realistic gay and lesbian relationships in comic books. That's something that I want.
特に私の読者はもう、主人公が、高校生だったり幼稚園だったり小学生だったりするのでまさに読者は、ティーンなんですけど。
And specifically in my works, the main character is a high school student, but also some of the things I have are, for example, elementary school kids and things like that. So we want to really expand on just real relationships with real people, and especially kids.
Can I ask the Marvel guy question real quick? Are there like any out lesbian characters in like either DC or Marvel right now? Like superheroes?
Well,
not
like I said, I was a Marvel kid, so I can only speak to DC. Sorry. But lots of Marvel these days. Karma, one of the New Mutants, is a lesbian. She's regularly featured in the X-Men books. Actually, in an issue of Uncanny X-Men, I don't know if you spotted it, it was kind of an Easter egg. We saw her kind of getting out of bed with a lady. So that happened. And then Carolina, one of the Runaways, actually is also a lesbian. And we kind of followed her journey. Brian K. Vaughan did, I think, a really nice job of writing that, where we're following her journey as she was trying to figure out, well, how do I get comfortable with being this superpowered alien who's also a lesbian, and I have a crush on my teammate, and then there's this Skrull who's showing up who's the guy that I kind of like, and oh, he's a shape changer, he can turn into a girl, so... you know, it's kind of one of those things where we look at that weird kind of funny metaphor and we kind of turn it on its side because, you know, we can do that in comics.
And in DC Comics, there's Batwoman and The Question, and there's a new bisexual character they're introducing in the new 52 Voodoo. Who else?
Maggie Sawyer.
Maggie Sawyer. Oh yes, Maggie Sawyer, of course. That really cool haircut, wasn't it?